Today we're talking about fear mid trade. You know when you put on a trade and that the initial exhilaration, you've planned out your trade, you figured out where you're going to enter, where your stop loss is going to be, your target. You've figured out the position sizing and you're feeling pretty good about the setup and the plan overall. Then the trade executes, and somewhere along the way, that initial confidence starts to wane, and it soon gets replaced by little whispers of fear. How does that happen? Why does it happen? What can we do to conquer these fears? That's what this stream is going to be about. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Morning Coffee with Mike. As we go, type your questions into the chat, and I will ask them as soon as this first little rant is done. So, conquering fear mid trade. How can we conquer fear mid trade? We could talk about discipline. We could talk about routines. We could talk about meditation and mindfulness. And all those things are a part of it. And I actually mention all those things in my book. So it's definitely part of it. But too often I feel discipline and meditation and routines and all those things are kind of excuses. They're kind of used as scapegoats, like, oh, I'm not disciplined enough, or I don't have a great routine, and so that's why I start feeling fearful mid trade. Well, perhaps it's part of it, but a bigger part of fear is predicated on beliefs, right? If you were to think about going skydiving, right? Like, let's just say that friend comes up to you and says, "Hey, let's go skydiving." What are some of the thoughts that are running through your head right now at the thought of going skydiving? Are you fearful of jumping out of an airplane? Is that something that excites you? Or you're like, "Why the hell are you bothering me now? It's in the middle of the day, or it's in the middle of the night, depending on wherever you happen to be watching this." What sort of thoughts are going through your head when if somebody were to come up to you and say, "Hey, let's go skydiving"? All those thoughts are based on your beliefs. Even if it's the middle of the night, you have a belief that maybe your friend shouldn't bother you in the middle of the night. Everything is all the thoughts, all the feelings are all based on beliefs. So if we bring this back to trading, why do you think we might be fearful in the middle of a trade? Why? Why might you be fearful in the middle of a trade? An answer here, things may go south. Sure, things may go south. But why should that inspire fear? Right? Well, why would a trade going south be something to be afraid of? You have your plan accounted for trade going south. That's what the stop loss is there for. Well, why would trade going south inspire fear? Let's keep going with this one. I think it's good. How do we get confidence in a trade or confidence in what we want? Answer was you don't want to lose. Well, sure. Who likes losing, right? Do you think that perspective on trading or that uh, a belief that we want to win every trade? Do you think that that's a good belief to have? Well, when it comes to trading, is trading a game of probabilities? Yes or no? Of course, trading is a game of probabilities. No one is going to win on every single trade. So, if trading is a game of probabilities, then it's up to us to play it enough times so that way we get the outcome that we want. And there's going to be wins, there's going to be losses in there. Part of what's going to lead us to the outcome that we want to have wins, to have more money in our account at the end, right? So, well, what's the end? So let's just toss out a number: 100 trades. You take 100 trades. At the end of those 100 trades, you expect to come out a winner. Great. So if you lose on trade number 15 or trade number 23, or let's say that you have a string of losses, does that really matter if at the end you The probabilities work out, the stats work out, and you come out ahead. That you come out a winner. No, of course not, right? Like the objective is to come out ahead at the end, and to get to the end, you're going to have some wins, you're going to have some losses. So part of beliefs and part of confidence is going to come from knowing what we're doing. Part of knowing what we're doing, knowing that trading is a game of probabilities and that we would know what our stats are, right? What's the stats of the system that we're going to trade? Well, if we don't know the answer, then maybe that's one of the reasons why we're fearful. If we don't know if we're executing properly, or if we don't really know, like, oh, well, what's going to impact the market, and we're starting to think that way, then sure, there's lots of reasons to be fearful. Uh-oh, there's something that just came out on the news. The Fed is raising rates, the Fed is lowering rates, the market is responding to rates in a way that I didn't anticipate. Uh-oh, now it's time to be fearful. Big part of getting rid of the fear is going to be what we're focused on. Where focus goes, energy flows. That's a thing that I first heard from Tony Robbins. I've heard it from a lot of motivational speakers through the years, and I practice it personally. And sure, it's true. If the you were driving on the highway, right? And when you look at highway stats and you're taking a look at, well, how many people hit the light pole, right, on the highway? It's a bizarre number, people that actually hit the pole on a highway if they're veering off. It's about yay big, right? Like maybe about a foot wide, if that. And you have all this other space between the pole and where you could hit. How the hell do you hit the pole? It's because you're focused on what you're fear of. You don't want to hit the pole. You don't want to hit the pole. You're looking right at the pole and you hit the pole. So what do you need to do? You need to shift your focus. Let's bring it back to trading. What should you be focused on? Well, you should be focused on the things that matter to your system. How do you know what you should put in your system? You should put in your system only the things that are going to lead you to the result. Actually had a big presentation yesterday uh, with a group from Canada. And the only things that matter to any system are going to be the things that you include. We get to decide what we're going to include to get us to said result. So, for example, in my own system, the way that I trade, I'm looking at earnings and sales. I'm looking at some elements on a chart. Um, but even there, on the elements on the chart, right? So let's just say that I'm looking at price action and I'm looking at volume, I'm looking at moving averages. I'm not looking at things like Bollinger Bands. Not that there's anything wrong with a Bollinger Band. For some of you know what that is, some of you don't know what it is. It's a technical indicator. But if I'm not interested in that thing, should I be looking at it? Should I take advice from somebody that says, "Hey, you know what? The price is moving in such and such a way against this Bollinger Band. I think the price is going to fall because of that." Should I take that advice? Well, is it a part of my system? Is it a part of my system to look at Bollinger Bands? Well, no. Is it a part of my system to take advice from somebody else? Well, you be the judge. If you want to add in random variables, right? Like this is where basic math starts to come into play, right? Like a basic math that used to be a fear of mine. Like, oh, I don't really like math all that much. Basic math, though, if we're thinking about variables and how many variables we're going to add to the equation, that leads to all different kinds of different points of failure. So if we're taking all these different variables and we're putting them into our equation of the different decisions that we should make, sure, we're going to start to be fearful because, well, there's too many moving parts. If we could start to eliminate the moving parts and start to focus more, then those are things that are going to eliminate some of the fear. So that confidence mid trade is going to come from knowing what we're doing. And there's something else too. The other part that's going to lead to confidence is having our other beliefs aligned with our goals and objectives and our ability to execute. If we aren't in alignment with our other beliefs. You could go and you could develop skills and focus and all these other wonderful aspects of trading, all these other things that are needed. But let's just say that you have some limiting beliefs about yourself or about what you're able to execute, self-worth, whatever it is. Those other beliefs that are running in the background that we might not be consciously aware of, that perhaps we haven't dealt with in years and years. Those are the types of things that could cause us to mess up mid-trade too. If we're telling ourselves things like, you know what, I'm not really that good, I'm not very disciplined, those kinds of things, then it's almost like an incantation where we're telling ourselves these negative things. And so we end up behaving in that way. So much of this stuff is what I go into in the Trading Mind Wheel book. So if you haven't gotten this book yet, go get yourself a copy of it. But that's what's going to lead to confidence. Knowing what you're doing, other beliefs being in alignment, and then, well, what's there to fear in the trade? You already planned everything out. You have confidence in what you're doing. Nothing to be afraid of. That's why, like, well, when I'm in any kind of trade, there is no fear. And it, when I got to this level of confidence where I know what I'm doing, and that knowing what I'm doing isn't just from reading it from somebody else, it's from actually knowing the stats and putting in the work and those sorts of things. Uh, what's there to fear? You've been here, you've done this. That's that's how you get rid of fear mid trade. Let's see what questions have come in. Just scrolling through here on Instagram. I see a few people over there on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. If you guys have questions over there, type them into the chat. They scroll through Instagram. Someone saying that they're struggling with entries and with FOMO. Uh, Everything that we spoke about here is going to help you already. So knowing developing your skills and getting into alignment with the other beliefs that you have. Uh, FOMO used to be something that would trouble me a lot, especially when I started to see other people making gains and I wasn't making gains. That's something that used to trigger me all the time. It's a even bigger problem now, right? Because it's always in your face. Social media, whether you're on any of these platforms, the algorithms know the types of things that you like, so it's just going, or the things that you tend to engage with, so it's going to keep on serving you those kinds of things. If one of the things that you tend to see or focus on a lot is other gains from other people, you're going to see that. That's going to be in your face, and that's going to trigger all sorts of FOMO. So, what do you do about that? Well, it could do a few things. My advice would be to, of course, focus on what we spoke about earlier. Another thing could too, well, would be to curate your social media feeds. What does that mean? It means unfollowing a bunch of people that aren't serving you, whether it's other influencers that aren't serving you, could be family, it could be friends. Well, what we invite into our space, our field of vision, uh, will influence us for better or worse. And it's something that we do have a pretty good control over, especially in the virtual space like this. So listen to what you're going to listen to consciously and curate it well. Curate it in a way that's going to serve you. Do I trade the Indian stock market? No, I don't. However, uh, From my experience, the skills that are required for trading are largely universal, and that's all what I included in here, right? So the basic skills, mindset, journaling, analysis, position sizing, risk management, all those things are universal regardless if you are trading US stocks, Indian stocks, crypto, forex, futures, what have you. It's a question from Alberto uh, on YouTube. How do you deal with uh, fear of losing out? FOLO. Haven't heard it said that way before. Fear of missing out, fear of losing out. Guess it's the same thing. Closing a trade early because you've got a profit and the trade is starting to pull back slightly, even though it's still above your stop loss. That's a great question, and it's something that I dealt with too. And I was just like, well, what can I do to get better at not selling a trade too early or holding on for bigger gains or selling well when it's appropriate? How can I do all those things better? So that's where the first part, knowing what the fuck you're doing, starts to come into play, right? So how do we know that part? Well, journaling and our stats, post analysis, going back through those trades that we had and marking out where we bought, where we sold, and going through all those different times when we feel like we sold too late or something, or too early, and we'll start to see certain common patterns in those trades, especially when we've laid it out in a journal and we've got the dates and everything and the charts there. You'll start to see, oh, when the market starts to pull back and a lot of trades start to pull back, I tend to behave in a certain way. Then you could come up with rules and signals to counteract those things. Something that has helped me personally is I like to scale out of positions. A problem that I used to have is that I would hold on to my whole trade and then watch the whole thing go up, and my equity curve too would start to go up and up and up. And then when the all the stocks started to pull back in and would fall, then that would freak me out because I would be looking at my account and I would see everything fall all at once, and it's just like, oh man, like that's rough to look at. We're looking at P&L, we're anchoring the current P&L in our mind, and when we start to think that, oh wow, I'm at a new equity high in my account, then when we start to give that back, especially in a day like yesterday where certain trades start to fall off, then starts to create all different kinds of fear. And we think that the rug is going to get pulled. And if we do think those things, and then if we have a habit of going out and trying to see, well, what are other people saying about this? There's always going to be great arguments on either side of the coin. So that's why, personally, I eliminate all that crap. I don't want to hear what anybody else's opinion is. The market's opinion is the only thing that matters. And so, how can we interpret that? Well, we can come up with different rules for different scenarios. So, what I'll do is I'll do a few things. I like to give myself four different ways to exit trades. The first way is going to be selling at profit targets. Notice how I said targets, not targets. I like to scale out of trades into strength on the way up. So that way I'm selling into strength and I'm piecing out of the trade as it moves higher. The second way is to sell based on quote unquote danger signals. Again, all this stuff is all included in the book. I talk about what I do, why I do it, and how you might want to incorporate some of these ideas for yourself. So if you haven't gotten the Trading Mind Wheel yet, go get a copy. So danger signals. Danger signals are when I am seeing things that are starting to shift the momentum of a trade in the other way. That triggers It could trigger a sale. But what I noticed was that there could be some days where it price just looks ugly. And I used to get triggered when price looked ugly and I would make an emotional decision and exit. So rather than doing that, what I do now is to add up all the different danger signals. I want to see the weight of evidence force me out of a trade. And so I come up with thresholds for selling out based on danger signals. Next thing is backstops. If a trade is running up and then starts to roll over and it's built a level of support, I don't want it to fall through the floor. If it falls through the floor, that's no good. The floor should be nice and firm. And then the last way, stop loss. So I'm giving myself three ways to pay myself and one that is going to stop the loss. All right. Next questions. Got a few more minutes here. By the way, if you're not already on the Marrow Wealth newsletter, the newsletter, it's a free newsletter. It goes out on Sunday morning. If you're not already on there, go get on the Marrow Wealth newsletter, marrowwealth.com/newsletter. People saying that they're big fans of, well, what we're doing here. I appreciate that. If any of you want to reach out to me, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. Send me a message on whatever platform you happen to be watching on. Send a direct message. Sometimes things get lost in the general comment area. So, direct message is a good way. You could also um, go to my website, marrowwealth.com, and then there's a contact form there that you could fill out, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Let's see. Any other questions? All right. Doesn't look like there's any more questions coming in. One thing that I will mention about DMs, though, I do get a fair amount of spam. I do get a fair amount of people trying to pitch me on this and that. If it's that kind of a DM, then you're probably not going to get a response from me. But if you have genuine trading related questions and are looking for help, those are the kinds of things that I do respond to, and I give very thoughtful, very thorough responses there. So, if you have the latter, please reach out. If it's the former and you're trying to pitch something, save yourself and me some time and don't. All right. That is it for today. Thank you so much for joining. I truly appreciate it. It's always fun talking with everybody. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you've liked and subscribed to the show and you leave comments and share it well with a friend, whoever you think that this might help. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Much love. Peace out, everybody.